business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Belvidere Board of Education has caused notices being published by having the date, time, and place there posted in the Star Ledger and Express Times, submitted to the Town Clerk, Town of Belvidere, January 7th, 2019. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Blum? Here. Mrs. Pepino? Dr. Zuppet?
Here.
Mr. LeBar?
Here.
Mr. Lucas? Mr. Matlock? Mr. McInerney?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
Mrs. Pell? Here. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mrs. Steffen? Here. Mrs. Williams? Here.
Thanks, Shelley. We reached the point in our agenda for our first public participation. Do we have comments or questions from the public this evening?
Sean, I know that there's some concern, I'll just head it off, there's some concern from the parents about the before and after care. I will address that during my superintendent's report. Not that I'm going to preclude anybody from asking any questions right now, but I certainly will address that at that point if everybody wants to hold tight, and we'll allow them to ask some questions while I'm doing the report.
Sounds fair. Any other, yes? Could you identify yourself too, please?
Yes. Do you have the personal electronics device policy on the agenda as well that you'll be addressing?
We do not have a policy ready for addressing tonight. We're going to have an open discussion about it, though, during new business.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, could you just identify who you are?
Ryan Bolton.
Thank you. In the back?
Are there two times for, I don't have an agenda. Are there two times for public?
There are. We do one at the end also.
I'm sorry?
We do one at the end of the meeting also.
All right. Do you have any extra agendas?
I passed out what I had.
Oh. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, my name is Michelle Nestor-Baby, 21 Tamarack Road, and I just came to speak on behalf of our cheer coaches. I'm one of the moms who has a daughter who is going into cheer, and I know they're on the agenda this evening, and I just wanted to put in a vote of confidence. These girls are doing an awesome job. The girls are learning a lot, and I think they would make cheer coaches. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Yes.
Mary McGrath, Cook Township, also from the cheer team, cheer mom. And they had their first sleepaway camp this month. And my daughter does have a health issue, and we had an issue the first week, and the first day. And the coaches were phenomenal. Jumping on it, taking care of it, made it by that night, it was taken care of, and she was able to eat like she needed to for the trip. I was so comfortable that I would let her take her for a month. So I just want to let you know how comfortable that made me feel as a mother that has a kid that has issues. It was nice to know she addressed it and took care of it.
Thank you for sharing that and for that positive feedback. Any other comments or questions from the public? Correspondence? None?
No.
Superintendent's report?
I'm not going to start with the Little Caesars closing, though, but I will get to that in a second.
Okay.
Because the first thing I want to do is I want to take a moment just to express my appreciation to the custodial staff, the maintenance staff, and our secretarial staff for really, this summer probably was the most challenging summer for all three of those groups because we were moving stuff, offices were moving, classrooms were moving. For the guys and Layla and the custodians and the maintenance folks, they have been nonstop since day one. And for our ladies in the offices, just to try to deal with who's moving where and whose furniture hasn't come in and the wrong color and the books aren't here. This is starting my 10th year in Belvidere. And this was the best job I've seen our group do. And they do a great job each and every summer. So I want to thank all of them. They really, really did a top-notch job. So thank you to those teams. They do a great job. So just like the parents, we found out at around 3:30 on Friday afternoon that Little Cedars was closing. I did reach out Chris reached out to me first, Mr. Carabinas. We put a plan together that included hiring from within and trying to have something together, which I shared out to the board, I believe it was Sunday morning. My goal for that was to try to elicit some feedback, to get some ideas, which there was some good back and forth that came out of that. And then Monday morning when Shelley came into the office, we mentioned that in Harmony we used the Family Work Connection group to run our before and after care. We did reach out to them. I think that's the best avenue for the district to go in. I don't have a definitive answer right now. They'll be ready to go September 3rd. We are hoping that they will. We've had communication with them all week long. My knowledge is that we are looking to run at the same time, 6 a.m. till 8:05, and then from 2:30 to 6 p.m. as well. So that way, for the parents that are disrupted by this, it's almost an easy transition. I know it won't be an easy transition, but at least time-wise it will be. I'm hoping to have a definitive answer by the middle of the week next week. Again, what we've gotten back from them has been very positive. They're very interested. I can't sit here and say that on September 3rd we'll be open for business. That is our hope and our goal. It's less than, it's a little over 10 days right now. So fire away with the questions now.
Wait a
'cause I
minute,
think-
before that, can you repeat what you said about what your idea was? You went a little too quick for me.
Oh, sorry.
You mentioned Harmony, and then I...
Yeah, we use a group, Brian, and so does White Township, called Family Work Connection. So it's an outside company that comes in. They do all the hiring. They do all the programming. They collect the money from the parents. Should be the same as what was being paid to Little Cedars. So we're just allowing them to use our space, whether it's the cafeteria, whether it's the gym, whether it's the playgrounds, and just so that they have the specific time frame.
And obviously, like, the mechanics of this need to be worked out. There's a lot of devil in the detail, but things like insurance, we would need to make sure that we have appropriate coverage, especially given the nature of the
Sure.
work that they would be doing. How long has their relationship been in place with both Harmony and White? Do you know, Chris?
I can tell you, I'm starting year 7 in Harmony. They've been in Harmony for more than 7 years. I don't know if Ms. Pagelli is here. If she was, she probably would know that.
So over 7 years.
And they were entrenched for this before I got there, for sure.
Do you know about with White, how long the relationship
I
has
don't
been?
know.
No?
I believe it's about 4 or 5.
Okay.
It's a really, I mean, from what I've seen of the program over the last few years, and I was just mentioning to a couple parents at the end of the year, they give me as the chief school administrator like a little yearbook of all the things that they've done, and just being around, for meetings and things like that. It's a really good program.
Okay.
I'm just hoping that we can get it up and running for the first day of school, but I can't guarantee that.
And we still have to work through, I know there's space considerations, so we have to think about where within the building it will be housed.
Correct, yeah, we'll work, that'll be easy to work with Mr. Bartow. He's really taken on not just athletics, but all the student activities, so it'll be there.
I think we have questions.
Yep, go ahead.
Yes, what ages or grades are eligible for before and after care?
That's a good question that I don't know the answer to right now, but I will get that out.
Okay.
I don't know for sure, I'll find out. We'll try to mirror what as best we can with what Little Cedars does, so we'll look into that.
Yes.
So Little Cedars, my understanding, was limited in their age group. If we could get it to be a little bit older, maybe 6th grade, that would be really helpful for us.
Got it, okay. I know in Harmony we were across the board, so I don't know, I probably should answer it that way. I was thinking more Cedars when you asked the question. Yeah, at Harmony, it's basically pre-K to 8, and I think Mrs. Williams is nodding that way, does the same thing. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
Do you know, in the schools where it's already been up and running, do they keep like the pre-K through whatever they have in the same space, or do they separate them out to like kindergarten?
Well, I can tell you in Harmony, it's a small group, so they do keep them together. I mean, I don't know that's more than 10 kids total, so it just makes more sense to keep them together.
White's the same way. They're all kept together.
But if I'm sure we have
There's
30
different
kids,
act-
they're gonna
I know
send
at
them out.
White, and it's a local graduate from here that runs the White program. And he does different things with the different age groups to keep them active in different ways, but he's really good.
So we'll, just, and I'll answer my question, we'll, as this unfolds, we'll blast out information to parents. We'll, if you're, hopefully you're all signed up for either the Belvidere app, or you have an email registered with us, or you can get through Genesis. We'll get the information out as quickly as we can. So we'll go ahead, another question.
Yeah, is there the same kind of legal as far as like the number of kids per staff member? So,
Yeah,
like in other words, like if some of us can't sign up at the beginning of the year, are we going to not be able to because they don't have enough people to staff?
8 kids per 1 teacher,
yeah.
under 3 or 4, and then from there it go, or 4 to 1. 4 to 1, the younger they are, and then it's 8 to 1. The older they get.
I'd have to find that out. These are why we're opening this up, because these are questions that I was talking to some parents. My kids are old now, so not that I'm old, but my kids are old. But we'll look into all of that. So, and don't be afraid to shoot us emails or call the office with stuff that as you think of it, you walk out and go, I wish I had asked this question, because we'll try to get every answer that we can.
So I know we're talking about before and after care, and a lot of the questions that we have are a little detailed for
Yep.
where you are in your negotiations, so finding out this information is helpful.
Mhm.
One of the things that we're concerned about is the summer program. So before and after is great for school, but then come the summertime, we'll be in the same position.
Right.
There's no daycare
Yeah.
available, so is that something that you plan to investigate further?
We'll investigate it, we'll obviously, and you and I, we spoke outside before, it's new to us, so that's something for summer we'll be looking at as we get into the school year.
Is it something they do in other townships?
They don't do it in Harmony for sure. I can
And
tell
not
you
in
that.
White,
Yeah.
What does Harmony and White offer
just,
the residents?
just during the school year.
But is there a private?
White Township has Mike's Tykes on.
Yeah, Mike's Tykes.
And I have to say, my daughters went there, my oldest is 15, my youngest is gonna be 10. And she started going, my oldest started going there 10 years ago, and I do trust them with their lives. They literally took my kids home in a snowstorm because I was stuck for 5 hours on the gate. So,
But what's the maximum capacity that we were talking about?
I don't know, but they've never turned anybody away,
Yeah.
because there's always kids moving in and out. They do have before and after care. The problem is that because they are in White, they will not, it's the transportation issue. Transportation will not, I was told, will not take them.
I guess my question is that if we're talking about the summer program, the amount of kids right now during the summer program are 30 plus at Little Cedars.
You
You
would
can't
have
suddenly
to
extend
contact.
all of them.
Yeah, we'll have to, those are the kind of details we're gonna have to work out with them as we get into the
Yeah.
process throughout the year.
Yeah, and I think it's pointless to speculate too much about what they can do or what they can't do.
Yeah.
I mean, it really falls on Chris and the administrative team to kind of work this out and see what we can do as quickly as we can do it, but in the right way.
Correct, I agree.
Or as,
It's okay. I was just gonna say, like, Belvidere has a nice rec program over the summer, but it's limited in its hours. It's not really good for
Yeah.
working parents, so I wonder if there's a way to sort of mesh.
We could, these are all,
rec programs.
like I said, these are all ideas we'll explore throughout the year.
The
Yeah.
same thing will be for the school holidays, the
Yeah.
teachers' convention and other.
They're good
things
ideas.
at Little
Yeah.
Cedars.
Yeah, we'll work with
Something
them.
that maybe you can add in your question.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
Are we keeping track of a lot of these questions and answers to put together a Q&A?
Trying, and then
Okay.
also video.
Not just tonight, but I mean, others
We go
as
through
well.
everything, we'll get them all. Yeah,
So a
we'll get 'em all.
comprehensive Q&A would be helpful.
Watch
Yeah.
the tape.
Cost, do you have any idea of what the cost?
I don't, our hope is to keep it the same cost as what was being paid to Little Cedars.
then at that point, is it all profit then for that company? Everything that we're paying, I mean, if we're paying.
I don't believe that
Respectfully
I don't really think that they operate for much profit. I think that you're basically covering the
Yeah.
costs of their
Insurance.
employees and their insurance and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
One of the things that would be helpful to know is if they offer sort of a flexible scheduling, or if it has to be you sign up for certain days of the week.
Okay. Okay.
Little Cedars had an option to enroll for like specific days, and then they had a drop-in option also.
Okay.
They have that.
Yeah, I think they have that. Yep. We'll
How
find
about
that
we
out.
just hire Little Cedars, come in and do everything.
Have Mr. come in and run the before and after school, and then you have a ton of high school kids that should be CPR and first aid certified from their health class to then make their volunteer hours for graduation.
So we're going to look at, my recommendation is to go with let's look at workforce first, because I think it's just a smoother transition for the board.
Look into other options. I mean, work family connection is a
Yeah.
great option,
Yeah.
and that's not a
Yeah.
bad idea, but look into other options too. I think.
Absolutely are.
Community, yeah. I mean,
My son is CPR certified. He went out of his way to do it, so he loved the job.
I know what I was, it was an option, it was your health class, either junior or senior year, that you took first aid.
like Blairstown does a $5 drop-in fee for aftercare. I mean, if we could get that summer set that here, I think you get a lot more people taking advantage of that, because Little Cedars is very pricey for looks.
For being in town.
Okay.
Right, okay.
You're paying for it.
All right, so a lot of work. It's unfortunate that I was talking with Chris about this. We weren't given, we received the same notice you all received. And if we had received a little bit more notice, we could use the benefit of time. So that means we have to scramble and scramble quickly. We'll do the best we can, but let's be realistic about the fact that there aren't that many days between now and September
Yeah, that's-
3rd.
yeah.
But we'll try to move this along as quickly as practical.
And I can assure you, this has been our #1 priority for the last 3 days. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, 3 days, but again, the 3 days that we've had to work with it, so.
And we all truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
I think that a couple, people might be in the same situation that we are, where we've already got before and after care, but we might want to switch, but that might not happen within the first couple of months. So like the option to be able to like opt in,
yeah.
at some point, and that's why I was asking about the ratios, because like if they're already like at ratio by November, like we would need to know that, because then, the option to come in.
It would just seem to me, again, working with them in harmony, they get more kids, they just hire another person and bring that person. I don't,
So
that does not, again, 7 years in harmony, I've never gotten a phone call where somebody said, I can't get my kid into before and after care. So,
good.
yeah.
So because this is so last minute, and I understand we're all scrambling, as a parent who really needs to plan aftercare,
Mhm.
because I work all year round.
Yep.
If it is easier for you guys to say aftercare has to start October 1st, it's easier for me to plan for the next 4 weeks than on September 1st say, oops, sorry, we're not going to have aftercare. So I'm not sure if everybody feels that way, but I do have to plan. And if you're really thinking that it's not going to be here by September 1st, I'd rather have you take your time and get it right and allow us to plan for the time in between. And, Belvidere's village won't scramble, we'll get it done.
Mhm.
As long as we know that it's short term and where we have to be.
Okay.
I mean, that's a great option.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're willing to give me till October 1st, then we're happy to take it. Yeah, no. I would say this. Let's, if we can, if I can get till, let's say, Monday afternoon to make that true determination, I think that's probably, by Monday we'll know that if we're gonna be able to do it for September 3rd or not. That'd be my guess.
One of those Genesis emails.
I'll do an all-call. I'll do the email, I'll do it through the app, I'll do everything. But yeah, we'll do that Monday afternoon. So,
That makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
just give it a good time frame.
Yeah. Anything else on this? Yes.
Thank you so much for everything you are doing. I do want to just kind of caution a little bit. Using Little Cedars as a base to go on is great, but please do not limit it to what Little Cedars offers.
Yeah, 100%.
Take the feedback and the suggestions
Yep.
to go forward with.
Right.
100%, absolutely.
Thank you.
Couldn't agree more.
Yes, in the back.
Teresa Chapman, Harmony. This wasn't why I came, but I have a daughter, she's in fifth grade, and I use that care program before and after, in Harmony, and my daughter loved it. So that was good. They had so many activities, like my daughter really loved it. She loved it. So I don't know if that helps. They did have a drop-in program. You can, if you only needed it 2 days, you sign up for the 2 days throughout the year. You can change throughout the year. They didn't offer the summer program at Harmony, but they do offer it in other school districts. They do have, they also have camps. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
sorry.
Do they offer after-school clubs at Harmony? Because like if the 4th and 5th graders especially have an after-school club, can they come to the aftercare?
Yeah, and the aftercare people walk them. I mean, it was right across, the room was right across from the gym. They will walk them over, and then, and I think they had the options like 3 to 4. You were able to pick up your student at 4 o'clock. It's less money, 4 to 5, and then.
But the kids could come in like at 3:30 or whatever.
Yeah, when your school's over.
Yeah, they get a list of everybody who's supposed to be where at what time. So if if your son was in the play and he was going to go to aftercare at 4:45, they'll get a list of that, and then they'll know to do that.
Anything else? Do you have other items, Chris?
I got a lot of items.
Okay.
Of course, it's the hottest night of the year, and I got to have a lot of items. But I do want to mention, and I mentioned it before, that Deb Koch is the County Teacher of the Year. It's officially public now. It was announced out of the Commissioner's office last Wednesday. Ed and I had the opportunity and honor to go with Debbie down to Jackson Liberty High School, which for all of us is not an easy place to get to, by the way. But it was all the county teachers of the year were there to receive their award. I was really, really not just proud of Debbie and her accomplishments, but I think it represents Belvidere and who we are and what we do, and the teachers, the great things that all of our teachers do. And when she accepted the award, it was, as a superintendent, I wasn't just thinking of Debbie, I was thinking of everybody that comes in here on a daily basis and the hard work that they do. And so it was a great honor. You'll be hearing more about that at this point. She got to speak to the governor today. I don't know how that went. I don't know if she was going to hit him with some politics or not, but certainly it's a great honor for Debbie and a great honor for Belvidere, and it is the first one we had, so congratulations to her. As you can see, we have a bunch of new hires on the agenda for tonight. Again, had the opportunity to hire people over the summer. I did have personnel meeting last week, I forget when we met personnel, to go through most of them, and then we had a couple that just came in at the end. Very excited with our new hires. I think we have a great bunch of new teachers, new coaches coming in. Obviously, we've already heard a couple of great things about Kayla and Amanda back there. Really looking forward to who we have coming in. I think we really hit a home run with our hiring. In fact, I said to Sean, I had a conversation. One of the interviews, I won't say who it was probably the most intellectually stimulating interview I've had in 23 years of education.
Terrific.
Just an awesome interview. So really looking forward to the new folks that are coming and wish them the best. At the next meeting, or the second meeting in September, we're going to go through our strategic plan, talk about, we worked on our vision, our mission statement, just to get that stuff out there and kind of put that to bed. I'm moving this along quick now, so just so you know. We are just starting to get our New Jersey Student Learning Assessment scores in. We got the first round in about 2 weeks ago, and now yesterday we got an update of those. Chris and I and Ed and I and Jess and I will be able to share that with the staff within the first couple of weeks of school. We'll still be on to have our testing presentation somewhere in October. Fall sports kicked off last week. They're already out there going, scrimmages and everything, so it's really the sign that school is right around the corner. And just to remind everybody, and I see we have a lot of teachers here tonight, just remember, we'll see you guys next Tuesday at 8:15. I know you're all excited about that. And we have 3 days of teacher in service, and our students are back on September the 3rd. And finally, back to school night will be September 3rd for the high school and September 4th for the pre-K to 8 building of Oxford Street Elementary. And
Thanks.
that is my quick report tonight.
Thank you. Any questions for Chris?
I have a couple that we had talked about before. Chris, we talked about grants and writing grants. I know that that's not something we have staff to do. When I was on the board of Parker College, we had someone outside, we had a grant writer that we had, and of course they get a percentage, it's like a 10% of what they bring in. But they brought in some grants of $250,000 and $300,000. And I just noticed in the local papers over the past few weeks, some of the other districts, not close, but in the Lehigh Valley, have gotten grants for athletic fields, athletics, and a bunch of different things. So I'm just wondering if that's something we can look into.
We could look into it. You know, in fact, Doc, I think it's appropriate to start talking about that, and it's probably something when we go down to Atlantic City. I know you usually go. I know certainly Mr. Bowman usually goes. I'm sure we can meet some folks down there too. But yeah, we can definitely absolutely take a look at that.
Have we had a chance, I know it's been a busy summer with the move and everything, have we had a chance to contact the state about doing the energy audit?
I have not. I'll have Jimmy on that as soon as we get rolling next week.
I had a complaint from some of the kids as far as soccer that they had to remove, that the maintenance staff removed the softball fences, but left the stakes in the ground that were holding them up, that were sticking up, which is a liability situation. The kids actually dug them out. The kids and the coaches were actually out digging out stakes so that they wouldn't hit them and trip over them, that type of thing. And it's just something I think needs to be mentioned to them, that
Absolutely.
we need to be a little more careful.
Yep.
Also, the track that we have. Do we have any plans on upgrading that or doing anything with it? I noticed there are sections of it that are really.
If you like my answer, I would love to upgrade the track and put in a nice brand new track. I don't know if there's 12 people on this board that might agree with my perspective on that. But I would say this, that our track program right now took off, I think, far beyond the expectations we had of it. I mean, we just, we even had a couple of kids in the second year qualifying for states, which was mind-blowing. So I would absolutely love to take a look at that. But it's costly. It is costly.
That would be right before grant opportunity or
Yeah.
two.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the Oxford Street gym?
Same thing, would love to upgrade that, but it's costly. So the board wants to have me take a look at that, I'd be absolutely more than happy to do that.
I have one more thing.
Sure.
And I'm not sure how this works. I know that St. Luke's provides trainers, provides a bunch of stuff for us. As far as referrals to St. Luke's, is that something that the trainer determines? I certainly don't want it to look as if the school district is saying, you know, you need to go to St. Luke's. And of course, I have had another experience with St. Luke's that just turns me off. My son had 3 x-rays of his wrist to the tune of $2,400, which if I called up a friend of mine who is a nurse practitioner, and I said, what do you charge for the series, wet wrist series in your office? He said about $125, and St. Luke's was $2,400. So it's something that if parents, I think parents should know that they don't have to go to St. Luke's with that referral, but that's something that we need to tell them.
Yeah, the parents, do, you absolutely do not have to take your kids to St. Luke's. That's 100%. Just remember that our athletic trainer is provided by St. Luke's, so that's going to be the natural recommendation. But anybody can go anywhere. There's no real need to do that.
I think that should be made clear too, that,
Yep.
that while they can certainly recommend,
Yep.
you have the option of going to your own doctor or to whoever you want to go to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I signed my daughter up for sports, and it asks you what your priority hospital is. So if there is an emergency, you can put down what hospital you want to go to. That's through your athletic departments.
Yep.
Excuse me, is it possible for you guys to speak up? I just really can't hear anything that you're saying.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Eric, you got the good
Microphone,
microphone? Is Eric back? Or you got the good mic? You get rid of it?
You can use this one to pass.
Let's do that.
Yeah, maybe
It's
just-
important that people hear.
Yeah.
The acoustics in here are not the best, so thank you for saying that.
This would be the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We heard that.
You hear that?
That works.
This one will work the best for anyone to pass around.
Okay, sounds good.
Other questions for Chris?
I have a few. I can speak loud enough. I'm sure you can all hear me. You're not going to like what I'm going to ask, but I'm going to ask them anyway. First of all, Booster Club.
Booster Club.
Were we supposed to get the bylaws and the accounting records tonight?
Yeah, good question, Marianne.
How about the good answer?
I have a great answer. I have a new athletic director who is taking this on in earnest, and he's having a meeting with the Booster Club parents next Wednesday, Mr. Bartow? 28th? So we will hopefully have all that for the next board meeting. So I do apologize for the delay, but we wanted to wait till after Mr. Bartow had an opportunity to speak with the Booster Club presidents.
So should I be able to expect those in September of 2019?
Yes.
You know, I had to throw that.
30 days, though.
As far as the Little Cedars thing goes, I just need, for my clarification, we are not running the after-school and before-school care, correct? Our intent is to outsource it to somebody else who will be running it. We will just be giving them our facilities to use.
If we go with the family work
Yes.
connection, that is the
That's what I'm
intention,
about.
yes.
But we have to make sure that that's a viable option.
Yes, no, but I'm just saying, but that's our goal, is to outsource
I
it.
think
not
that's the
to
first
insource it.
option.
Correct.
we're looking at.
I think the goal should be to keep it in-house with some of our community. With the high school kids, I know it'd be a
You know what, I'm sorry, we're on public session now. You know, that's okay, I opened it up to Chris because, you know, it was a big issue, and if you want to speak, just be recognized, okay? We'll keep it informal, but let's not get too loose. Thank you.
My last question is the start time for Oxford Street.
Correct.
What time are we starting and finishing it, and has the BEA approved the start time?
Okay, so we are starting the actual day will start at 8:10. Homeroom, I think, is 8:05. We will finish at 2:25. Did the BEA approve it is a very different question. We are going to move forward with that schedule and see where it goes.
Are we going to incur legal costs by going ahead with that schedule?
We were going to incur legal costs no matter what schedule we went to because there was no agreement on schedules.
Even if we kept it at the original schedules at 2 different start times?
That would be the only way where we would not have done that.
But given the fact that we just raised our legal expenses to $100,000 for the year, is this a path we want to go down?
Are you asking me that, my opinion, or you want me to? I believe it's a path we need to go down. I think it makes more sense to be on a common start and finish time for all the parents. I think it makes sense we really are operating as one building to be operating at the same time and to try not to have 3 different sets of contractual obligations for really one group of faculty that's working under the same thing.
I agree with that. I disagree with the increased cost.
Right.
Given the fact that we just raised our legal bill to $100,000 for the year. I don't know that if we waited 1 year to try to negotiate something, it would be bad for the district.
I can say this, and I'll say this with all sincerity. We could wait 6 years, and I don't believe there would be an agreement.
There'd be a negotiation at some point, and we could get an agreement then.
I don't know if I agree with that.
You know, I have to voice my opinion.
I want to add that we did talk about common schedule in curriculum extensively, so this is not a new topic. This has been discussed.
The new topic is the fact that we may incur legal costs.
I heard you, Mary Ann, but just the point A, though, being that the common schedule was discussed, and thoroughly.
I was there, I'm in
Yeah,
charge.
okay.
But like I said, we discussed it not knowing we were going to incur legal costs.
Okay. I understand your point.
That's my question.
Anything else?
Other questions for Chris from the board? Okay.
Turn the microphone on.
We got hot water. Do we have a motion on personnel, and we have a revision on items 1 through 15A?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion.
I might have to.
Mary Ann, questions?
Yeah, item 8, full-time aide, I thought it was against policy to hire full-time aides. We always hire part-time aides, you don't have to pay benefits and sick and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know if it's against policy. It might have been something we haven't done, but we have and do have full-time aides, so.
Okay, throw that out there. There we go, spending money again. And my only other one is on the cheerleading coaches. We agreed, and I wanted in the minutes, that there will be on overnight trips an administrator present, should there be any issues, as we've had in the past.
Mr. Bartow is excited to go on the Disney trip. I can tell you that.
So that's a yes.
That's a yes.
Thank you. Okay, that's all.
As has been past practice for the last few years.
Other questions on personnel? Roll call, please.
Mr. Blum?
Yes.
Dr. Zuppeth?
Yes.
Mr. LaLaur?
Yes to all, staying 14, Jeff Friend.
Mr. McInerney?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mrs. Pell?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Stefan?
Yes to all but 8, Sean McIntyre, for the full-time position, noted that.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Good shot. Under education, can we get a motion and a second, items 16, and this was revised to 23A.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Do you have a second?
Yeah, we had a second. It was Mary Ann.
So you do have to speak up.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Under business, can we get a motion on items 24 through 27?
Motion.
Second.
No questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain on 25 and 26.
Continuing business.
Talk about my evaluation.
Oh, sure. So I have a couple things on continuing business. One is, as you know, we had a goal to complete Chris's evaluation by June 30th. I was hoping to get ample input. Also, I was going to be away in July, so that was another motivator for me. That didn't happen, obviously. So where we are right now is I've gotten feedback from 8 members. One board member self-recused. One board member is recused because of a natural conflict, and 2 board members didn't have the opportunity to complete. So I went ahead and told Catherine at this point, Kathleen, pardon me, from school boards that we're done. Just compile all the data. I've looked at people's comments and tried to incorporate them the best I could into the narrative. And once I speak with Kathleen, hopefully tomorrow, she's been in and out because of her summer schedule. I'm hoping to speak with her tomorrow or sometime this week. I'll finish up the rest of the draft, send it out to all of you for your review. And then what I'd like to do is rice Chris for the next meeting, and so that we can go ahead in executive session, finish up his evaluation. It's a little late, but it's important that we get it done.
It's 7 QSEC points, by the way.
It is QSEC points
7
too.
out of 100.
Right, so that's another reason why we want to get it done. So if there's any change to what I just said in terms of based on my conversation with Kathleen, I'll blast an email out to all of you, but I would think at this point that'll be how we'll proceed. So plan on an executive session for the next meeting. Do you have anything on foundation, anything new? I know we were trying to reach out to other people to gauge interest.
I'll get right back on that once we get into the school year. It's not been the summer.
Okay. Other continuing business items?
Well, I have said this once before. I think the foundation obligation should be a board obligation rather than just approval.
Someone has to do that work, though, Bob. I mean, in terms of at least, I think what you suggested at one point, which I agree was what I thought was a good idea, was to kind of blast it out and see who in the community was interested in being part of it, which I know in turn you did, Chris, and I think you got a couple people.
I got a couple responses, yeah.
But I think we just need more than 2 or 3. I don't know what the couple is, but how many people you have. But if we could at least blast out again, and then if there's a if there is a board member who has a particular interest in shepherding the process, please let me know. Anything else on continuing business? New business. I have one item. I have to stand up for this one now. So, New Jersey School Boards Association is recognizing Brian Smith in gratitude for your 20 years of dedication to the children of the Belvidere in the state of New Jersey. So, Brian, if you could. You get pinned too.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mary Ann's gonna get a picture.
I'm trying to take a picture here, Brian, but you know I'm not the greatest at this. Let me get up and take it.
Surprise.
It was a surprise to me too.
I didn't think they did.
Surprised me too. Sitting on the list.
If you look at me, Chris, you can be in the picture.
I'm sitting.
Well, I don't want him in.
He's in now, sorry.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Brian. Brian doesn't like the limelight, but I will say that I don't know how many years I've been on the board now. It's been a while. Not 20, but it's been a while. And there are certain board members that I have come to lean on, both when I was vice president and certainly as president, for guidance and advice and direction and just insight. You have all that, Brian, and sage wisdom too. So thank you for all that you do for the board and for the district.
Thank you.
We reached our point in our...
More new business.
What?
We want to talk a little
sorry.
bit. Yeah, in curriculum tonight, we decided to have a discussion at the board level about our technology policy. We've been going back and forth for probably 3 meetings now. So as an administrative team, we were looking for some direction as to which way to go. So I think Ms. Pell is about to start talking. Okay. So we were looking just for some direction as to which way to go with the technology policy, if we want to implement cell phone bans, things of that nature. So we thought it would be best to have the discussion with at least the majority of the board here tonight.
Okay. How do you want to start?
Whoever wants to start talking.
Catherine, you want to start?
You can sit.
Wherever you're
We can pass
comfortable.
around.
Wherever you're comfortable, Catherine.
You can pass around.
So I believe everybody knows how I stand on this position by now, but I'll just reiterate it. My fight has been to crack down on personal use of technology, not necessarily educational use. With spending $200 to $300 per child on a Chromebook, I feel that the Chromebooks suffice for educational needs for the students. There is some talk about personal use of cell phones, whether parents should have a say, students should have a say, teachers should have a say, the school board should have a say, or the administration should have a say, or all of the above. In my opinion, and what I've been pushing for, is to crack down mainly on the cell phones. I know K through 5, and I can't see the argument that any child in K through 5th grade would need a cell phone. So I know that we propose potentially putting the cell phones in cubbies during the day. I personally think 6th through 12th is where most of the abuse lies and where it should be cracked down on. But from the feedback that I'm getting is that 6th through 12th should remain or have different rules than K through 5. Different options were discussed as like K through 5 in the cubbies, 6 through 12 putting them in shoe bags, keeping them in their lockers, keeping them in their book bags, or not bringing them to school at all. I've presented the data, the research, the facts on the negative impacts on education that the cell phones in the classroom and the distractions that it has. I have, with all due respect, yet to see facts, data, or anything hardcore that would present the educational benefits in writing or proof to any of our really K through 12 students. So a lot of options are on the table. To be honest, I kind of it appears as if I'm standing alone a lot on this. So at this point, it's really up to the public, to the parents, to express their concerns regarding the technology policy. Some of the feedback that I had heard, some of the abuses, there seems to be conflicting information whether there is an issue in school and whether there's not an issue in school. So any public feedback, concerns, I feel I've done everything I can to this point, and it's really up to, at this point, it's really up to the public to voice their concerns. Does anybody want to say anything?
No,
We're
sorry.
gonna have public participation.
Yeah, we're
Okay, go around the board.
still,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Watch, that's gonna catch right there.
Sorry, who wants to speak? Colin?
Hung up.
We're hung up down there. Thank you,
I
Marion.
can speak loud enough, I have voice.
Marion, thank you. Here,
You know, I'm gonna sit over here, and I'll just pass the mic.
Catherine, you're not alone on this issue, and I did bring it to White Township's attention. I do know that at White Township, they adopted a new cell phone policy. It was based upon what I brought back, and I think that as a group, we try to keep all of the districts on the same wavelength, basically. I don't know what Harmony has or Hope has, but I do know that there are restrictions in both of those districts. So I too agree that K through 5, there's really no need except for emergency purposes. Having access to them, you presented something in reference to putting them in bags and that there's a company out there that sends them. I thought that was a great idea. There is a cost to that. And as Mary Ann says, we try to keep as much as we can in line with costs. So I do think that there needs to be a happy medium because there are parents out there that allow their 3-year-olds to have phones and play with them at all times. Some people don't feel that there's issues there, so I think that the public is going to have different issues, and which is why I'm thinking that the administration needs to decide what they want to do, and listening to the parents and to the board, those of us that are concerned about all of that. I just know from a personal issue, I don't give my kids, and you can ask all 4 of them, their phones until their 15th birthday. Caitlin and James were just 15, and this summer has been driving me crazy because their heads are in their phones. So I see what the difference can be, although they're both very active. It does restrict them because they're constantly wanting to communicate to someone else instead of, and I live in White, and it's difficult sometimes, especially working. And I do miss Belvidere for that. They can't get on their bike at White and go see their friends because there's so much distance between them. That is something that Belvidere has that White and Hope and Harmony do not have. So it is things for parents to think of. It's not just what you allow your students to do when they're home with you. It's what you want them to do. And my opinion is that when they're in school, they're here to be educated, not looking at their phone under their desk, pulling it out of their backpack, walking up that hallway. I just think that you need to think outside your little box and your little family and make sure that you're concerned with what they're at school for and not for what you would allow them to do when you're home with them.
Hey, Colleen, I'm just going to yell for a second. What did White do? What is their policy that they've adopted?
And when did they do it?
They just did it, and it's in their new parent. They just adopted it, and I was not on that. Ms. Nocerini's on the board. Were you on that?
I was.
I don't remember but it's a lot more restrictive than it was.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Yeah, I don't. It was adopted in May and June, so there's been so many things going on at White as well that it's just something. I wasn't on that committee, but it was changed. And I can tell you that I was one of the people that, when I left here after what you had given us, that I presented.
So White Township implemented a formal policy regarding cell phones based on my presentation in June, or the information that you gathered from
The
there?
information that I gathered, and the new superintendent in the district was on board before that with
implementing the change.
Right.
Okay, so just to reiterate, based on the presentation, the studies, and the facts that I gave, I believe it was the May or June board meeting, Colleen then took that information back to White Township, reviewed it in the committee, and then they decided to make a formal policy change moving forward for this school year.
Other input from board members?
Well, the one thing I'd like to mention is that I would like to hear from our administrators as well as our staff who have these kids to get their feedback as well. Because it's being presented as a problem, but is it a problem? And if it is in fact affecting education, I think we should do something about it. But I'd like to get all sides of it and move forward with it. So we're not just reacting to something.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And
You can't have it.
The point I would like just to piggyback on Don's comment is that I think we probably have to have some type of striated policy that for the lower grades versus kids in the high school. Once kids get to be in the high school and they become their lives become a lot busier and a lot more active, and it's the two-way communication of parents too. So I would be concerned about parents' inability to contact students. It has to be done the right way, the appropriate times, not all day long. I agree with that. And the other thing being that the unintended consequences, if we have a cross-band, K to 12, in my opinion, we're going to be dealing with a lot of disciplinary issues. And educators, while they have to be disciplinarians, their primary responsibility is to be teachers. And so some of this has to, I think, to your point, Colleen, begin at home with parenting, because teachers are not parents. Parents should be doing parenting. Teachers need to teach. I don't want to have, in my opinion, again, just one of 12, a disproportionate amount. And now we're dealing with a lot of disciplinary action because of inadvertent things related to cell phones. So we have to be careful as we craft a policy about what the intended consequences are versus the unintended consequences of any policy.
Great. So I'll just to kind of talk about what Don said. My personal opinion, it's my personal opinion, and I don't believe the administrators agree with me, is I support a ban K to 5, pre-K to 5. I have 3 kids. Unfortunately for my oldest, she didn't get a cell phone until she was 14, and then we dropped it to 13. And the one thing that I always like to caution parents, especially in the high school, we don't have locks on our lockers. So if the kid's leaving their lock in their locker, it's wide open to be taken. 6 to 12, I don't see the need for a ban. I think the need is for education for our kids. I say this, when I was a classroom teacher, which is going back a long time, I had one young lady who showed me with her cell phone in her pocket, and I'm sure some of you guys that are a little bit on the younger side probably were able to do this too, could text without the phone in her hand, just sitting there like this. So it's, however you look at it, it's an issue. And I think one of the things you brought up, Sean, is that one of the unintended consequences is does it become an overburden on the discipline issue? I don't know that it's going to be. I'm just saying that when I was assistant principal, that's what I spent pretty much my entire day doing, was taking cell phones. And I know we have a pretty supportive group here. Parents will be, if I called you up and said, I just took Johnny's phone, you're going to go, yeah, good for you. But let me tell you, there's 50% that were screaming at me more than anybody could. So 6 to 12, I have a different feeling on K to 5. I do support, again, my personal preference was my kids didn't even get them until they were in 7th grade anyway, but that's just how I feel. The principals will probably give a different argument then.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Other comments? Anybody else on the board? Marianne?
Yeah, I'll even talk into the microphone. I could support a K to 5 ban. I could definitely support a K to 3. I'd have to understand why 4th and 5th graders don't need a phone. 6 to 12, absolutely not. I think they need their phones. I think they should have their phones. But I would really like the administrators and the teachers to come back with proposals to us. I don't think we should set this policy in a vacuum. I think they need to tell us what their issues are and what they need us to do, and then we take it from there.
As should the parents. If parents see issues and there's a concern, they should come back to us.
Oh, I got applaud. Maybe I'm not going to get shot when I leave.
Yeah. I think some of the ideas, and these are just throwing them out on the table, is that you need to survey the faculty and the administrators. That's difficult. I don't know what the response rate will be. Second element is that the community needs to be involved, and that could include a public hearing or public hearings. I'm trying to figure out where to send this. Could it be curriculum committee? It looks like it at least initially requires committee work. Maybe it's part of a strategic plan, I don't know. But I think because this is pretty revolutionary, at least for this district, that it could be piloted too, not something that's permanent, but we can see how it works over a school year.
Brian, will you be thinking maybe the possibility of a combined curriculum and policy committee meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I would like feedback before. I would just like feedback from staff and faculty before we had that meeting.
Sequentially, yeah. We should gather feedback, the stakeholder input, and then use that as the foundation to develop policy.
Just in reaction to the disciplinary concerns, on the flip side, you could be avoiding disciplinary issues by eliminating the biggest distractor in the classroom. So that's the other side of it. Just wanted to throw that in there.
I think kids will bring them in regardless, though. That's my point, Catherine, is that you could have a ban, or you could say they're not allowed, kids bring them in, and then that was the point I was trying to make, Catherine, that then teachers now are dealing with the consequences of students not conforming to the policy. So what I wouldn't want to see is a Congo line outside the vice principal's office that's dealing with that issue when it may be important, but there probably are other issues that are perhaps of more importance. Do you have enough direction, Chris, to does that give you a charge in terms of where to go with this?
Yeah. Certainly get some feedback from the stakeholders and get a committee meeting together between curriculum and policy.
Okay. And we'll look to do that as soon as practical.
As soon as practical.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Can we, I think did you send policies back in the spring?
And I sent the Notre Dame, basically the Yonder program that they had implemented and how successful it was and how much different their school year was once they implemented that no cell phone policy.
Can you send it again?
Yes.
Can I make one suggestion, and not to knock that down? Can we not use private schools?
I was going to say, can Colleen send out the White Township one?
Do
Look at that?
public schools, absolutely, but remember, private schools can throw students out.
Yeah,
We
White
can't do
Township,
that.
I
So
know Holland Township has one.
that's,
that they- yes.
please
Yeah.
use public schools.
Well, I was using their private just to reference. To
I understand,
show
I'm just-
someone's-
yeah.
To show the improvement from year to year regarding performance.
And the other thing being, we ought to compare, if we're looking at model policies, look at stuff that has to comport to New Jersey regulations. Okay. Anything else under new business?
Should I mention, who was in curriculum? Should I mention the RTI process that we discussed in curriculum? Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
That's good. Just real quick, in curriculum meeting we just had previous, we talked about upgrading our RTI process, basically combining our response intervention process with our INRS process. I'm going to send out for the board, probably in about 10 days, a manual that the curriculum committee got tonight. Our goal is going to ultimately be to really take a look at every student, each and every kid, and hopefully provide them with the best services possible from start to finish. We think we do a pretty good job of that, but we see some areas where we do need to improve. We had some professional development last Thursday, and we were all excited about the professional development, the administrative team. I think the response out of curriculum tonight was very positive as well. We're really looking to get to a point where we're basically individualizing every student's education and really trying to provide them with every opportunity they can to have success. So for the board members, probably right after Labor Day or so, please look for that, and we'll have a more open discussion on that on the 11th.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Anything else? New business? New business? Public participation. We have our second public participation. Do we have comments? Yes.
Eric, do you want them to have the microphone? Or?
I'm a teacher.
You can bring it, huh?
All right, my name is Allison White. I've been teaching for 20 years. I was in North Warren Mutual School District, and I'm currently over at Warren Hills. As a teacher, cell phones are ridiculous to have in the classroom, especially once you go one-to-one. There is absolutely no reason to have a cell phone in the classroom when you have Chromebooks in front where the kids can access what they need. Okay? And the problem with the kids is that you might tell them to put the cell phone away, but they subconsciously take it out. They don't even realize what they're doing because it's attached to their hands so often. So with the policy at Warren Hills, the middle school, which is 7th and 8th grade, they are not allowed to have their cell phones with them. They have to stay in their locker all day long. Okay? They can check them when they're at their locker, but that's it. All right, when they come into the high school, it's up to teacher discretion, which has become a problem for us, and we've sent out surveys. This administration has definitely been helpful, and they've sent out surveys through Google Classroom or Google Docs. It takes 2 seconds to do that survey. It's not that hard. And they've collected the information, and we're just going completely one-to-one this year, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with the cell phone policy and how it might change. But in terms of teaching, there is absolutely no reason that the kids need a cell phone in the classroom. Now, we have 5-minute passing time in between classes. They can check their phone then, all right? They can keep it in their backpack. It got to the point last year in my classes, I had them put their cell phones in their backpack, and I had their backpacks up in the front of the room so they wouldn't touch them. Because again, even they might not, they're not trying to break the rule. It's just the whole culture. They don't even realize what they're doing and how it's impacting their education. And as soon as my co-teacher and I started doing that, the kids started interacting with each other. Okay? Interacting with each other, participating in class. Their overall averages started going up because they were actually doing things. And we did this halfway through the school year, and it was with the help of our vice principals that we decided this is what we need to do. And it was just, but because it was up to the discretion of the teacher, it's not consistent in every single classroom. So every teacher is having a problem with what they should do. All right? But now with one-to-one, forget it. They don't need their cell phones. Right? Everything they need to access is on their Chromebook. Their cell phones are supposed to be for educational purposes, not texting your friend in the middle of class or cyberbullying, because that's the quickest way to send Snapchats or TikToks or wherever, whenever. You eliminate that when you get rid of the cell phones. Okay? And as for perhaps lining up because everybody's sending the kids to the office because of cell phone use, how's that any different from any other rule? Once you put your foot down and you continue and you're consistent with that rule, they'll back off like any other rule that you instill in our community.
Okay, so I just want to clarify something. I said perhaps maybe it was the most artful choice of words, but I agree it shouldn't be in the classroom. So don't think of a proponent that students should be taken out of the classroom. What I would be concerned about is a flat out ban. So you had mentioned, wait, if I could just finish, please. where if students have the opportunity between classes and do it that way, that's something, again, I'm just one of 12, it's just my opinion. I see that as kind of a practical, kind of a common ground where students still have access to phones, they are young adults, but not in the classroom.
Correct.
So I'm just trying to strike a balance between the two.
Yeah, and that's pretty
And that's
much.
what I was suggesting before.
And so we have that, they're allowed to use them during passing time, that's the straight, but they're only,
That- and-
if they have earbuds, only allowed one in, so they can still hear if there
Right.
were evacuation drills or something going on, so that they're not completely blocking out the music. They're allowed to do that during class, in between class time, that's a part of the policy. But then it's up to teacher discretion for what's being done, and, you know.
See, I think in the
we're all
classroom,
frustrated,
when you
so.
get into teacher discretion in the classroom,
It's difficult.
I think that could sometimes get a little slippery too.
Right.
I agree, because it puts pressure on the teacher where teachers have enough pressure. Their jobs are hard enough to begin with. And again, like I said before, their primary responsibility is to be educators.
Right, and that's why where in Warren Hills Middle School, it's a board president that says that this is our cell phone policy, and you cannot have a cell phone on you in class. It has to stay in your locker the entire time, or keep it at home.
Yeah.
If you don't feel that it's safe in the locker. And then part of the problem is that when they move up to the high school, suddenly they have this freedom of being able to have their cell phone. And with the teacher discretion, it's difficult. So I guess overall what I'm saying is actually a board policy where this is how, just like any other rules and regulations that you have in your class, a board policy allows that to be, this is what's done, now we can follow through, but we're not taking your cell phones away completely. You have your one-to-one to help you with the classwork, but you still have your cell phones in between passing time, during lunch, maybe a study hall that you're able to access and do communication with your parents. I mean, it's that, for us and what I've done in my classroom, that seems to be a good balance.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
Thank you.
We work together,
Yeah.
guys. Back off of her, like, in whatever policy that you guys talk about, you also have to remember the watches, which may not be an
Yes.
issue with the younger kids or the middle school kids, but they're using watches primarily, and the cheating comes along with the cell phones. It takes about 5 seconds for one kid to snap a picture of whatever work they're doing and send it around to the
Right.
entire class, and then when they try to look at it, you know, on their watch, I mean, the difference between like when we get as teachers an assignment that's been passed around the classroom, you can tell the first kid who did it, and then it gets slightly changed until it gets to like the last kid who got it, because everybody's taking pictures and trying to copy it, you know, quickly, and then you get these answers that are absolutely ridiculous, but nobody cares, and they just turn them in. So there's the distraction, and then there's also like the whatever your cheating, whatever your cheating policy is, also kind of comes along with the technology.
Thank you.
And we had that, I mean, that was another reason why my co-teacher and I implemented putting the cell phones in their backpacks in front of the room, because we were catching kids bringing up on their phone, copying homework. Somebody took a picture of the homework, they were copying it, and then that, you know, it reflected on us that now was our responsibility to let that teacher know that this particular student was just caught cheating on a homework assignment. So it just adds a lot more to then, not only are you trying to make sure that the kids aren't being distracted when you're trying to teach them, you're trying to make sure they're also not plagiarizing and copying, and that's just another thing that hurts their education, when they're just flat out copying off of one another.
In the survey that Allison's talking about, like when we were asked what our biggest issues were, cell phone was across the board. I mean, the absolute number one, I don't think there was a teacher in the building who didn't say that.
I don't think there's any disagreement that we're going to come up with some policy. It's just a matter of what that policy is going to look like, and you know, and again, how it's going to be separated into different grade levels or clusters of grades. Other comments from the public?
I just wanted to say, to add on to what they were talking about, I don't think it's wise to have them have it in their lockers. I mean, I think if they're in their backpacks, like, that's fine. We don't live in a perfect world, and the world's not today what it was 20 years ago. And I would be very upset if my daughter didn't have access to her cell phone, only because I have tried to reach her in case of an emergency. She does watch her younger sister sometimes, so to me, it's important. And she just turned 15, and she's going to be a sophomore. So if I had implemented the 15-year-old policy, I would have had a lot of problems, you know, in the last 2 years. I mean, I don't understand the educational benefits of having a cell phone. I'm not saying there aren't any, or there are, but I think my daughter says she can never even get to her locker. She said
Thank you. Other comments? Yes, Carolyn.
Hi, my name is Carolyn. I live in Belvidere. I have comments on two separate things, so I'll just add on to the technology thing. For sure, I would absolutely support some sort of a ban for K through 8. Absolutely. I really don't want my kid to have a cell phone in the cafeteria when they're eating lunch. It's really important, especially in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, that they really learn to communicate face to face. It's really important when you get to the workplace. And I think we're kind of missing that right now, and I can tell with the younger folks that are starting to work. So I understand we're a walking district and kids might need it for their parents because we're not getting on buses and they could be going places, that's fine. But from K to 8 while they're in school, there's no reason for them to have a phone. And I also trust the administration is going to call me when there's a problem. So keep that up, please. Also, so that's I don't have an opinion on high school. I really haven't thought about it. I think that's a much more complicated debate. So good luck. I also do have a comment about the Oxford Street School pickup and drop-off process. Comfortable with the new process. During one of the principal-parent forums, I talked about the chaos that goes on Franklin Street and 4th Street. Particularly at 220, the buses have left, everybody's gone, we've got one crossing guard over there. When I come through there from the couple times I got to pick up my son on Oxford Street, there's kids everywhere. The cars are all lined up there and there are no sidewalks. So my suggestion was to possibly change the bus route so that the buses don't circle up through 4th Street, come around, and go back up the hill.
That doesn't mean
really, it's really, really hard to see. I mean, I would have hoped they'd probably go out, I don't know, but there's no sidewalks on any of those roads, not Quarry, not Franklin, not 4th. And now we've got really small kids who hopefully will be walking with their parents, but are also not the most controllable. I got a 6-year-old boy, sometimes just hurts. I talked to Mr. Karabinas about it today, and he didn't know if anything had been done about it, and I am now asking you if there hasn't, or if we can address the bus route coming up that way.
We can look, there's nothing been done about it. We'll start right there. This is the first time, I wasn't at that parent meeting, so I didn't hear that. I know we've talked about how to best do that, and anytime we come up with what seems to be a really good plan, there's always oh, well, now they're going down on an angle on 3rd Street, and, we just can't come up with something good. That doesn't mean we're not going to stop. We're going to stop trying. We did talk about, and I think this year, at least the buses will be gone before the kids, the pre-K to 8 are dismissed. The buses will have left. Now, 225 still puts them on Franklin. I get that. But that's something we're going to look into. Maybe it's even just dismissing the kids as we move forward, maybe later, maybe some 2:30, something like that. But we don't have a definitive plan at the moment.
Even adding a crossing guard on 4th Street, I think.
That is not up to me. You can talk to Mr. Tuckett and Town Council about adding a crossing guard. That is the police hires the crossing guards.
Like just an adding.
I think it's a great idea. I advocate as many crossing guards as we can get.
Well, it's just a really bad intersection. We've had tragedy there before. I don't want to see it again.
Yep.
And something definitely needs to be done. Thanks.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from the public? Yes, all the way in the back? Okay.
I would just also like to put my support in for not having access to cell phones in the classroom. And then also up to 8th grade, I think that does make sense, not in the cafeteria. Maybe they could have access for a couple minutes at other points during the day, but socializing and face-to-face is a very important skill for them to develop.
Agreed. Thank you. In the back?
So I concur with everyone that said something about the cell phone policy. As a teacher and as a parent, unless my own child is bleeding, has a broken bone, is on the floor, I do not need to hear from them. Personally, I want them to have a phone because he's in the high school and there's so much activity after
development will be targeting working-class families, which ultimately results in an increased school enrollment. That's a wonderful thing. We've heard the last couple of years, enrollment is decreasing, it's going down. Anything that increases enrollment, I feel, is necessary. However, it was also stated that this development will be eligible to participate in the pilot program or payment in lieu of taxes. This means that 95% of the agreed amount of payment goes directly to the town. And typically schools receive that. The town attorney stated that school funding can be negotiated, but ultimately the town council gets to decide the school funding amount, if any. My question is, if there is an increase in enrollment, but little to no additional funding, how will this affect the school budget and personally the Harmony Township's tuition rate? That's the first item. The other reason why we are here has to do with the proposal of 6.3 million square feet of warehouses on Route 519. An engineer has done a traffic count using ITE data, and it is estimated that traffic may increase anywhere from an extra 2,000 to 20,000 trucks per day, depending on the warehouse use. For example, if it's seasonal storage, Home Depot needs to store their barbecues after summer, versus distribution and fulfillment centers, FedEx, Amazon. Those are the typical centers that you hear about. According to the Warren County Traffic Study, released in 2018, Route 519 is already severely congested along stretches and is or at near capacity. Any increase in traffic has the potential to increase traffic accidents. As you know, our students ride along 519 from Hope, White, and Harmony to get to the high school. Many bus stops are right along 519. Stopped buses filled with students wait for students to get on and off the bus. Clearly, this proposal has the potential to put our children in harm's way. We are asking that you write letters to the White Township Committee, the White Township Planning Board, and the Warren County freeholders on behalf of our student safety. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other questions or comments from the public this evening? We had on our agenda an executive session, which we don't have a need to have, correct?
Nope.
So we're concluded with our business this evening. Oh,
I just wanted to add that I also support that I don't see a need for cell phones in classrooms K through 8. I just wanted
okay,
to
thank you,
voice that
thank
as
you.
well.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
We're adjourned. I should actually have done this before we adjourned. It's really nice to see such a good turnout from the public at a board meeting. And thank you for your interest in the district.